Hello, and welcome to another episode of the podcast where we look to reassure you that the Euros are coming home. All right?
Bow, bow, bow.
All right, Sess?
All right.
Well, maybe they're coming home. What do we think? So, this episode's coming out following the Euros final, so this could sound very silly.
Yeah, that's true.
if we don't win it.
Yeah, for the first few minutes, it's going to be, I think, what it'll be, 7:15, so it's 45 minutes before kickoff.
Yeah.
And
so
then,
we're going to chat a bit about what our thoughts are, for the game, predictions. We've got the lineups we'll chat a little bit about and whether we agree with them. But then we'll have the second half of this episode kind of reflecting on the performance and the result, and maybe the tone of our voice might change a little bit as well. We might be a bit disappointed. But first, though, we have some news. Cess, did you know someone called Lionel Scaloni?
Do I know someone like that?
Anyone by the name of Lionel Scaloni. So, it could be Lionel. He's the Argentinian manager.
I thought I recognised the name.
Ah, right.
Yeah, because I've been kind of following what's been going on in Copa America.
I mean, in English, it's Lionel, isn't it?
Yeah, only if he's dancing on the ceiling.
Nice.
Thank you.
So, can we get a boom?
Yeah.
He was came up in the news in the last sort of week or so, talking about how, because Copa America is going on at the same time as the Euros, and he was comparing the standard. He said he'd love some of the European teams to play in Copa America to see how is one group of nations stronger than the other, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was thinking, if only there's some sort of competition where the best of the world go up against one another.
Yeah, if only. And we don't want it all the time. Maybe just every 4 years. Or
yeah,
something.
you get bored of it if it was every.
Yeah,
and we got the Euros every 2 years, so maybe it should be the other two. It could be something like that, actually. But
some sort of cup that they can win for the world.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's something that we're fixing football already.
We are.
This is good stuff. How do you reckon we compare actually Euros wise to the Copa America, teams?
Yeah. So every time the Copa America comes up, there's this argument that comes around by. Presumably South Americans, saying that the Copa America is either as good or more difficult than the Euros because they've got they've got some of the best teams in the world like Brazil and Argentina.
So do we.
And then they kind of stop there. and that's the problem for me because yes, Brazil and Argentina, if you think about the world, they are some of the strongest.
And they're iconic and as well.
But you only have to look at the quarterfinals and semi-finals of each other's tournaments to realise actually the competition is actually a lot wider.
Yes, so wider. Yeah, the standard is wider, isn't it? I suppose we've got so many top sides across.
Yeah, Colombia's done amazingly this tournament. However, Argentina had to beat Canada and Ecuador.
Oh, yeah. Uruguay are pretty good, I suppose, but didn't they get knocked out?
They got beaten by Colombia.
Colombia.
Yeah. Yeah, and Brazil got knocked out early on as well. Whereas Spain had to beat France, Germany, and Georgia of all teams.
Georgia, exactly. Yeah, you don't get teams like that in South America.
No, exactly,
or any of the Americas. There we go then. So we'll work on that. We'll come up with a good idea, a good name for it, and
some sort of cup for the world.
Yeah. There we go. More to come on that. On another side of news, we've got it was in the news a lot this week about how Southgate doesn't get enough love and respect for. He's got England to another final.
Yeah.
So are we overly harsh on him, Zess?
It changed very quickly, didn't it, in the media?
These things do in football somehow, don't they?
All of a sudden, now that we're in the final, we should be loving Southgate. He's amazing.
Be knighthoody. He should be knighted.
Yeah, I think it's easy to be critical and easy to be overly positive. However, it's probably more difficult to be honest and give critical feedback on things we haven't done well. It's probably a bit more difficult.
I think it's the difference between criticism and sort of toxic kind of hate. I think there's been some of that, which is horrible and personal. You get real digs at Southgate, people throwing things at him and stuff. That is absolutely not on.
No,
and that should be called out. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But criticism, that's just... you go with the rough and the smooth, don't you? You get praise, you get criticism, and
if you're allowed to praise and cheer, you should also be allowed to boo and criticize. I think you can't take one without the other.
He's just an interesting case, though, isn't he? Because he's got kind of quite a lot of one and quite a lot of the other as well.
Yeah. So. Well, we're going to be doing a bit of a a deep dive, I suppose, into Southgate's legacy afterwards, aren't we?
Yeah, our sort of season finale. So we've got a season finale episode coming up the week after this one, after this episode, where we're going to have, like Seth says, a deep dive into Southgate's tenure.
Well, 8 years, not 10 years.
Anyway, on that, in the build-up to this game then, so, I was chatting to John this week.
Yeah.
And he had some thoughts on the England-Spain final.
Okay.
And I sort of said, we've got a good chance. I know he was saying, it's going to be Spain, or, they've got such a good team. And yeah, they've been playing really well. Probably, would you say the best team in the tournament in terms of how they played? And
I don't think there's even a contention about that, is there?
Like, the odds are in there. The bookies would back Spain, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Going into it. So we're saying this now, because when people hear this, we'd already know the result. But when it comes to it, I said, well, individually, though, I think I said to him, we've got more match winners. What do you reckon to that point? Do you think... am I maybe being a bit too ambitious there?
It's difficult to agree or disagree as such, because technically Spain have won more matches. So
yeah, true.
You could argue they've got more match winners.
I would say it's more of a team versus individual thing, though. I think one of England's one way that we've managed to get through, we've mentioned it in previous episodes, haven't we, about the individual brilliance of players like Bellingham and Saka and Watkins in the last game and stuff like that, where we get these moments of brilliance. Spain are a system, aren't they? That it's really fluid and
a great system with players on form as well.
Yeah. They concede a lot of shots, though, and I think I mean we'll get into our kind of what we think the game's going to go like in a second, but yeah, and I was sort of saying that we've got. I think individually, player for player, we've got the stronger team in that sense, but they're playing better.
Yeah, definitely.
John was saying that Yamal, Williams, Ruiz, and obviously Rodri are world class. I'm thinking
all four of them.
Well, yeah, apparently all of them are. I mean, they have got some world class talent in there and everything. Is Yamal already world class though? That's maybe going a bit too far. He's just turned 17.
Rodri, I think I've said to you before, haven't I? Rodri, I think, is the best player in the world, let alone midfielder. It's a bit too early to say for Yamal, and I would say Williams and Ruiz, they've done well this tournament, obviously.
Exactly.
You can't call them world class just for this. Every tournament, we're always told, aren't we, the player who wins the player of the tournament, don't just go out and buy them because they're not necessarily...
The curse of the...
Yeah, James Rodriguez was amazing in 2014. He's
an Everton legend, isn't he?
He's an Everton legend, you're right, yeah. Bought by Everton legend Carlo Ancelotti.
Yeah, you made his career, didn't you?
Yeah. If anything, the Real Madrid's trophies are all Everton's, really.
Oh, yeah, I think that's how... Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But yeah, just buying based on player of the tournament in a international team doesn't actually equate to the domestic capabilities, I suppose.
Yeah, and it's that tournament football is different to club football, and Spain have looked the best in compared to all the other teams, but you play certain clubs and things like that. I think the standard, we've talked about it before about the standard difference. I think that would be, this Spain side would struggle against some of the top teams in club level, I think, but maybe that's a separate topic we could get into at some point. But this is why our podcast is here, though, isn't it? We need to fix like silly things that people say. Love you, John. But
such a little dig. It was amazing.
But my response was that we've got Foden, who was, I think it was something that was it Shearer said, where Foden was the best player in the Prem, Bellingham was the best player in Spain, and Kane was the best player in Germany. Yeah. Not to mention the likes of, got to put my Arsenal hat on, but Saka and Rice and stuff, who are world class at what they do. Saka is now, as we decided at the end of that episode, he became world class, didn't he?
Yeah, but we struggled even with them to put them in the world class category. And if we're struggling with them, you can't put Ruiz and Williams in there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, completely agree. Yeah. Predictions?
We'll see.
Predictions for the match then, score wise? You saying 2-1 was that?
I think 2-1. I'm going to go extra time.
Ooh. I was going to say that. All right, I'll say 2-1. 2-1 before extra time to England.
Okay, I like it.
Can we record another bit in a minute where we back Spain, just so we don't sound so... Anyway, so we'll stop it now, and we'll be back in a second after the game. Well, there we are then. So Spain victors 2-1. 2-1? 2-1. 2-1. Why don't I say that right? 2-1 over England. What are your thoughts sort of immediately after that then, Cess?
Well, I went with my heart and I said 2-1 England.
Yeah.
I kind of felt, my head was telling me it's going to be 2-1 or 2-0 Spain, but I thought, you got to be positive for the final.
Yeah, it's a one-off game, and that's football.
That is football. That is the beauty of football, actually.
No. But it came to fruition with what we were thinking, that they're a much better unit, Spain, and they deserved it, didn't they?
Right from the beginning of the tournament, they were the best playing team, weren't they?
Yeah,
so
they won all their games, and their style of play was the high press. We were talking during the game, weren't we, about how they pressed as a unit, as a team.
Yeah.
You pointed out all four of them there pressing.
Yeah.
Where that's not what we were doing with Kane up front, for example. We had Foden, and it was all a bit of a disjointed press, wasn't it? You were shouting at Kane at times, if I can bring that onto the podcast.
Yeah, it's just, I think, we said this before in the, previous episode? Maybe the one before last. But what you'd expect from a striker, if they haven't got the ball, is to help with the pressing, help closing down.
Yeah, runs in behind maybe.
Yeah. What we saw from Kane, and also, I said before, didn't I, in the previous episode, that at the very least, the minimum you expect from a striker is to be in an attacking position. So when the ball comes into the box, the striker is the first one there, is the main one that they're targeting. Yeah. And there were a couple of opportunities that Saka provided from the right. There was another maybe from the left-hand side, and he was nowhere to be found. I think the closest we saw him when a cross came in was he was just coming into the penalty box.
Yeah, well, they showed the touch map that he had of the game, and he had one touch in the box after the whole game, which kind of sums the whole thing up. And going on our player ratings that we released about 10 minutes ago, we... unsurprisingly, maybe, or was it harsh? I don't know. We put Kane down as was it a 3 out of 10?
3, I think it was. Yeah. I don't think it's harsh. If anything, we were being nice to him because
I actually initially put a 2.
Yeah, I can't.
You talked me out of that.
I know it just seems too harsh, but it's very difficult to justify even giving him 3.
I just can't think of what contribution he had. This sounds like it's a witch hunt for Kane now, and it's absolutely. This result was not just on him.
Yeah,
it was a sort of system problem, wasn't it? It was a structure of the team.
Yeah. It didn't play well to his abilities at all, and we'd been calling for, even Ollie Watkins could even start.
It felt like a missed opportunity, didn't it? Really, just not starting with Watkins. That the chance for them to get him behind. We knew that Spain were going to press high. Yeah. That room in behind. You think, well, we need pace in behind then, but Kane was dropping so far deep. It was sort of easy for the defenders, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he didn't want to, burst into the box or anything, did he? We saw him. How many times did we see him just jogging about or walking?
I just don't understand that. Yeah, he's covering ground, but he's doing it in such a kind of sluggish pace. And there was one point when Foden came to press the man that was nearest to Kane.
He
sort of
had to
ran
run past
Kane to press Kane's man, in a sense. It was just, I don't understand when Watkins come on, there was a little bit of urgency, but... Yeah, and we looked, obviously when Palmer came on as well, it looked like we were making the defence run backwards, the Spanish defence, asking them a few more questions. So Spain really kind of showed us how it's done, the pressing as a team, really, didn't they?
Yeah, they really did. I think the way they played really suited the abilities of the players. We decided to go with a low block. Southgate clearly told them, we're not going to do the forward-facing front-footed style that we played in the first half against Netherlands, for example. We didn't do that. In which case, if you're playing a low block, then what you don't want to have is a striker that's going to stand or just walks around the midfield area.
Yeah, if you're going to have a low block, the idea then would be, well, how's your attacking threat? Where's it going to come from? Yeah. And that would more than likely then be more direct. And you can see Pickford went long again. The last couple of games, we've changed our formation to that back 3 when we're in attacking mode, and defensively it's a back 5, isn't it? But it gave us that box midfield, which I think we're going to talk a bit more about in one of our tactics episodes we're going to bring out in the coming weeks. But that box midfield really helped in that sort of moment. But even then, Kane couldn't really get on the ball. Yeah. Today, because we dropped right back, we kind of lost that box midfield. But then we go long, Kane didn't win a header, couldn't flick it on, and it just came right back at us again. So that first half, but we didn't look like conceding really in that first half. We conceded corners and things, but we were fairly secure. Yeah. What I found interesting is, and we talked about this together at halftime, how the Spanish manager... what's his name again, Cesc?
De La Fuente.
Hey, nice.
I got that right.
You got it right that time. He made a change. He brought Rodri off, to a lot of people's surprise, whether it was for an injury or tactical. It seemed from tactical reasons it worked. They dropped a bit deeper defensively, had 2 midfielders kind of as pivots, and that meant that England opened up and it pushed us forward. Yeah. And then they were able to get their wingers on the ball more.
And they were able to do that because they were already 1-0 up. They were kind of in the driver's seat. So it
Yeah,
was
it's played
fine for
into
them.
their hands in that sense too. Yeah. One thing I did notice is we just couldn't pass out from the back. We had to keep going long. In which case, why did it take so long for Watkins to come off the bench to run in behind?
I know. And to be honest, 60 minutes for a player to come on in the 60th minute, that's actually quite early for Southgate. Because I was saying to you, wasn't I? Southgate just absolutely does not want to change what he started with.
Yeah.
He hates that, doesn't he? And he wants to leave it to so late to change it.
It's kind of until his hand he's forced his hand, isn't it?
Yeah.
He doesn't really. It's a reactive kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like we've said before.
Yeah, and I think the thing that I'm most disappointed when it comes to Southgate's substitutions, we've said before that that's his weakness, if anything, the substitutions. The problem I have with that is when he does make the substitutions, sometimes it does get better. So you can give him credit. They have an
impact,
yeah, you can give him credit for the fact that, you can put Palmer on and Palmer would score. There's certain impacts he can make. However, that just shows that we can actually play like that. We can play front-footed. We can play attacking football.
Yeah, forcing Spain back.
Yeah.
They look like they were sort of up against the ropes at a couple of moments.
Exactly.
There.
Why is it we have to wait till the 84th minute for that to happen? Why can't Southgate just admit, maybe, actually, we can play like this from the start? Why does it always have to be a reactionary situation? Yeah. In which case, however much you can give him credit for the fact that we changed how we played in the 80-something minute, you can also criticise the fact that he doesn't do that from the start. And I think that was the primary reason why we lost today.
No, that's a fair point. Yeah, Spain do play really well as a team, but I still stand by a point I mentioned before when I was talking to John that I brought up. And that's individually, we've got players that can really cause some problems. I back our players, player for player, if you know what I mean. They've got a really good unit as a team, and a few brilliant individuals as well, don't get me wrong, but our players we've got some amazing talent there, but we couldn't really get them on the ball because we were playing so deep. Some of our best players had to just play a kind of chasing game, kind of running the ball down.
Yeah.
Credit to Spain for some of that, but I think tactically we didn't adapt to that.
No, and quite often we saw, didn't we? Bellingham and Foden, for example, they could, and Saka as well, they're the kind of players, they can take players on.
Yeah.
And we saw a few of those every now and again, but that was basically in our own half. So when they carried the ball 20 metres, they only just managed to get into their half.
And they had nowhere else to go.
That kind of stuff should be happening in the final 20 metres, going into their penalty box.
Yeah, when we made that tactical switch because of the necessity to bring Palmer on in, and we had Watkins and stuff, Palmer was moved into that kind of right half space, and he linked up with Saka. It meant that Saka was on the ball more. Yeah. Bellingham was able to drop into the middle and get on the ball more. It meant we had to sacrifice Foden a bit out on the left again, who eventually subbed off as well. Not because of it was his fault or anything, but it meant that at least Palmer, Bellingham, Saka were able to get on the ball, and we started to create a few more chances.
Yeah.
It just felt like, why did it take so long to get to that phase?
It took to the 80th something minute of the final for Bellingham to finally play in the position that he plays best in.
Yeah. You've been saying this for so long. I have to support you on that one.
Yeah, so frustrating.
What do you think about... So I've had a lot of mentions about Walker. So different people I've spoken to thinking that, Walker's...
Best crisps. Yeah.
Walker's crisp. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Defensively, I think he had a few... This wasn't his best tournament. I don't think he was at his best.
No. Well, I mean, definitely it's the worst tournament I've ever seen him in, but...
Has he been... Would you have had someone else right back?
In his place? No, I don't think I would have trusted anyone else.
Not Trippier or Trent?
No, I mean...
Defensively, would they do a better job?
Well, I mean, we needed Trippier on the left, so I think, fair enough, don't choose Trippier on the right. I wouldn't have chosen Trent on the right because I just can't trust his defending. If we played in a system where he's the wing-back on the right, then... I would think he's a better option than Walker, but at no point would we have needed him as the wing-back because we had Saka on the right-hand side, and you'd pick Saka over Trent any day of the week, wouldn't you, as a wing-back?
Yes.
Yeah. Any logical person, I think, would.
Right.
Yeah.
No, there's no doubt. I mean, he's a brilliant player, brilliant talent, but we have to find a system. If he's going to play, you don't want him to be... Would you have him up against Williams instead of Walker today? I think
my God,
bonkers. I know it seemed like Walker was dragged in to the middle, wasn't he? I don't know whether that was out of his own play, where he was kind of dragged into the middle, and then Williams, because when Williams scored the goal, who's at fault for that? If we're going to, it's either Walker who needs to be picking him up or Saka. If that's our defensive shape, which on the defensive shape we were a back five, then Saka needs to be chasing him. But that's a lot of... Saka's really marking Cucurella.
Yeah.
In a sense, if that's the way we're thinking about it. So it's hard to sort of... Really, Walker should be passing on... I think it was Danny Olmo, was it? Olmo? The player that was running into the middle.
Yeah.
And then it left Williams free. So Walker needs to pass Olmo onto someone else to be able to get out there to Williams more quickly. But...
Yeah, that was definitely his fault, because it doesn't matter if he's helping out in the middle. His job is to mark the guy on the right-hand side. If they score because the guy in the middle manages to get past Gahey or Stones, that's not Walker's fault.
Yeah. Or even Mainu and Rice need to be tracking that. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've always been very protective of Trent in terms of the ability that he has.
Absolutely.
He's brilliant at going forward. He's fantastic at that.
He's a brilliant
player. His weakness is defending, in which case, with the way that England was playing, if Trent was going to be in Walker's position, he would have been relied upon to defend, not to attack, to defend. In which case, no, Trent would have been... I would have preferred Saka in there before Trent, you know.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean. And that's the thing, if we're going to... When we bring Watkins on, we're going to run in behind, and maybe Gordon, and we're going to play that style, Trent would have been maybe a better option for that vision of the pass that he's got, the long ball and that kind of thing. But the way we're playing, Trent wouldn't have really changed anything in our minds, would he?
No.
Well, congratulations to Spain. Where do we go from here then, Cess? Is that the last of Gareth Southgate, do you think?
I mean, if I were Gareth, I would say that's the end. He's had a lot of criticism, and
some
I would say,
actually.
If you have the personal attacks on him, like, you know, the beer thrown in and stuff like that, that's all negative. But a lot of the criticism he's had, I feel as though it started to get to him, because a couple of the changes that he made, we actually mentioned, didn't we? Like, maybe he is listening to the media. And I feel as though maybe...
It was quite radical shifts in what he'd been doing.
Yeah. And I feel as though maybe he started to doubt his own ability in a sense, or like maybe he's thinking, maybe I'm not doing the right thing. Maybe I shouldn't be so stubborn. And it's kind of playing a conflict, because you can see in this final, he tried to stick to his guns with so many things, and it just didn't work. And this is the second time in the final that he's lost. Something's not working.
It's those key moments. His pragmatic style is a kind of safer way to play, in that you want to minimise the chances of losing, in a sense, and you hope that you can win by pinching it, or those moments of brilliance that we talked about before.
Yeah.
And he's got to another final. So there are positives, and there are things you have to say, okay, credit to him, and the stuff he's done off the pitch, the culture. We'll go more into depth into that. Like we said, we're going to have a deep dive into his legacy, really, aren't we, in our next episode for our season finale. But
I'll probably mention this about him. I told you this analogy, I think it was yesterday or the day before. So I think Southgate's legacy is very much like Zack Snyder.
Oh, no. Ruined Batman for me.
Yeah, so you remember this analogy. Now, some people might not know who Zack Snyder is, or what he did or anything. So Zack Snyder, he's a director, very famous director.
Why'd you mention that name?
So I think the film that epitomizes him perfectly is the film 300.
Oh, yeah, the Spartan.
The Spartan one, yeah. A lot of people love that film. I actually love that film.
Gerard Butler, yeah.
Yeah. So what I mean by epitomizing his abilities is that he clearly went to producers came to him with the idea of the 300 Spartans, and he told them, yes, I want to do this, I want to base it on the comics, and the producers will go, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, and I want to have these slow motion actions with fantastic lighting. Oh yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, and I want to have, like, you know, big beefy men, and it's just going to be a really manly, it's going to be awesome. Oh yeah, that's great. Yeah, and I want to have big goat people playing mandolins. And then you can imagine everyone going, wait,
sorry, what?
Yeah. The record suddenly stopped, you know. He's very much like that. He's got great ideas, and then...
Is this Gareth Southgate we're talking about now?
He's got great ideas, and he just doesn't stop, and he just keeps going on, and then because of that, it kind of ruins certain things.
Right.
And with Zack Snyder, when he got given Man of Steel, he did a good job with Man of Steel, I thought. And then Batman v Superman came along. He was given the keys to some of the biggest comic book heroes around. In which case, he didn't make a good film at all. And we, as Batman fans, we hated what we saw.
Yeah.
And yet the film was quite successful. It was watched by a lot of people who made quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
It wasn't because of his directing that the film did well. It was because it had Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman,
The big hitters.
Cyborg, yeah. And so it didn't really matter as such. If we made a film called Batman v Superman, people will watch it. There'll be Batman fans who will be watching it.
Should we do
And
that?
so, hey, that's a good idea. And with Southgate, I feel very much like that. However, whatever tactics he made or anything like that, the players that he had would have taken him a certain level.
Yeah.
We've mentioned before about individual
Talent.
brilliance.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what dragged him across the line for so many of these games. And sure, you can give him credit for having picked those players, having picked the starting lineup and all that stuff. Fair enough. And we've given him credit for those things,
Yeah,
like not picking Grealish and stuff.
Yeah.
However, without doing anything, he would have been able to achieve a certain amount when you have some of the best players in the world in your team. What we couldn't do is get those players to play well together, and that is directly the manager's.
That's the manager's kind of job in a sense.
That's the forte, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel that's why I think it's a very Zack Snyder situation, where Zack Snyder got given all these characters,
But he couldn't sort of connect the dots.
he
with
couldn't
them.
connect it together at all.
Yeah.
And it was only the fact that it had these characters there that got them over the line.
Oh, that actually, I forgot that analogy, but actually, it's
Yeah.
sort of your analogy works. For once, you've said something
Yeah, for once.
quite
right.
interesting there. It's
Yeah.
an interesting comparison. I don't know what our listener thinks, but yeah, that's
They're just sitting there going, I like Batman and Superman.
what's wrong with that? It's a brilliant film. Well, like you say, the results though was really successful, and our results have been successful. But you think of the tight moments, Bellingham and Saka just dragging us out. At Palmer today in the final, just kind of got us back in the game out of nothing in a sense. It was
Spain won the tournament with... They didn't go to penalties once. I don't think they went to extra time once, did they? Or maybe they did with Germany. But they...
yes, but yeah.
Yeah, so they won before penalties,
Yep.
and the only time they were not fully convincing was against Germany when they slightly struggled, but they still...
And that's understandable.
Yeah,
Really
it is,
good side.
They,
Two
they were
really
the
good
second
sides
most
there.
important team, weren't they?
Yeah.
So they clearly showed that this is what you need to win. We were so close in several occasions on being knocked out of the tournament. We were, even though we topped the group, we were actually quite close to not topping it.
Yeah, we started to pack our bags, really,
Yeah,
didn't we?
we were so close to being knocked out by Slovakia. We were so close to being knocked out by Switzerland. We went 1-0 down to Netherlands and only scored in the 91st minute or something like that. So actually, we were, even though we got to the final, we could have been knocked out in the group stage, last 16, quarterfinal and semi-final. Whereas Spain, not really at any point did they feel as though they were going to be knocked out. And I think that's the big difference. You can give credit to Southgate for getting to the final. However, there's got to be something that he's not doing right for a team of some of the best players
Yeah,
to have been
the squad,
almost knocked out every single game.
That's why I mentioned the kind of missed opportunity, really. You look at that talent.
Yeah.
And you think anyone can win a cup competition. You know, sometimes the best team doesn't win. And that's really what we were hoping for, because we might have some of the best players, but we aren't the best team. And you have to say Spain were, you know.
Yeah.
They deserved it.
Yeah, absolutely.
One final question for you then, before we sign off. And that is, you were saying to me before the game, off air, that Southgate should have the choice whether he wants to stay on as England manager or not. Do you still feel that way?
Well, that was... I mentioned that if Southgate won, he should be allowed to stay. Because, to be honest, we want trophies, and if he's being paid so much and everything, that's what we expect from him. If he achieved that, then you can't necessarily say, but your playing style is not good enough.
Yeah.
So
Fair point,
had he won, he should absolutely be allowed to extend his contract, stay for the next World Cup, whatever it is. Now that he's lost it, I think it's a little bit different. I wouldn't be surprised if the FA say, please stay on till the next World Cup, because the success that he's had compared to the 10, 15 years prior, it's fair enough. The stats go his direction.
Yeah.
But in order for us to improve, I don't think he should be around. He's done brilliantly, but what we've said he's done brilliantly on, a lot of it is off-field.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, a lot of credit to him for what he's done, and like we said, we'll go into a lot more depth on that in our next episode. But he's built a foundation. But maybe this is time to hand over the baton. Maybe that's an emotional response after that game. But I think I haven't changed my mind on that. That's how I've been feeling anyway. So I think I'm with you there. So, well, let's find out what happens in the coming days then. What Gareth thinks, but. Well done, England. Credit to get that far.
Congratulations, Spain.
Yeah, congratulations to Spain.
Our deep dive is going to be good as well, isn't it? I think it's a deep dive that no one's really done on Southgate.
Yeah, we want to present an absolute kind of like a real objective. We don't want to just sort of say, oh, he's brilliant, he deserves a knighthood, or he's terrible, get rid of him, he's the worst manager ever. Because we want to actually analyse. You've shown me some brilliant statistical analysis that you've done. So I'm looking forward for you getting stuck into that.
Yeah, because the one thing we do, I think, when we analyse certain things, we look at it in ways that other people don't seem to.
Oh, exactly.
This is why so many platforms like TalkSport and stuff have to learn from us.
Yeah, why they have to copy us and everything. Yeah, and that's why we get so many, so much fan mail and so many likes and stuff. So thanks for all your love, guys. Like we said, we're going to bring you that sort of season finale episode next week. For now, though, thanks for listening. Please do share, subscribe, and it's goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me.